Lucas, thank you so much for being our guest today. We are super excited to learn from you and to hear more about how to make research actionable for our PM partners so that the best parts of what the researcher has found so that the customer pain points are addressed and they are converted into solutions and features.
Sure. First, thanks for having me. I'm super excited to be here on the show. So my name is Lucas Terra. I currently lead design for credit cards at Nubank. Designers, PMs, researchers, engineers, teams are very multidisciplinary and people are always working together. So like there's no research brief that goes to a external or internal research team and they go out to research. Kind of like the scope of the research is defined across these different disciplines. Mm-hmm. And then we have two different kinds of research. You would have more what we call foundational research, which is go out and talk to customers or non-customers to understand how their daily lives are and where are the opportunities for us to explore. More focused researchers. And also research that are more focused on a specific problem or product that we're already trying to solve or build. So I would say they're like these two different researchers. When it comes to the process, it usually starts with let's define what success looks like. I think that's pretty much how everybody does. But what we want to take out from this research, we want to go to people's homes and interview to understand, I don't know, how people relate to money, like physical cash in a specific neighborhood or a specific part of Brazil. So this is how we usually start a research project.
Mm-hmm. You brought up something really interesting there. So when you said what is the outcome of this research, right? So who defines it? Who are the other stakeholders involved? And how do you then measure what you have done so far so that you reach a point where you tell yourself that, okay, now we have enough data?
Cool. Yeah, I feel like there are, it really depends, like research. That's the classic designer answer, right? Like it depends. But I feel if you're in a more foundational kind of research, you have a lot of qualitative data to start with. So qualitative meaning you're probably not going to talk to thousands of people, but you're going to select really well what are the kind of profiles that you want to talk to before jumping into any conclusions or hypotheses of where are the opportunities to tackle as a product. So in that case, you know where to stop, or first when you define the what success looks like with PMs and other product designers and sometimes even engineers. You go to people's homes and start talking to them, and then some of the topics that appear, they start to repeat. So when they're starting to repeat too much, it's usually the moment you say, hey, I think we have enough data for now. We can move on with something else.
Yeah, the patterns in the research.
Yeah, exactly.
How to make that research data actionable so that our PM partners can take the most important bits of it.
Yeah, that's a $1 million question, how to keep things actionable. So I think we can start with maybe talking how it does not help making things actionable. I think I've done that myself. I worked in service design for a while as a consultant, and I've put together also reports, like, I don't know, 40 pages reports, 400 pages reports. And people are just going to read the cover and the first page, right? So that's how you don't want to show your research. Of course, the data is important, but you really want to get people to know what are the key like the key messages you learned from customers. So I think like a one-pager description always helps with getting learning is actionable.
Mm-hmm.
But also, I feel there are a few more soft skills techniques that can help. So I would say researchers get your PMs and designers to participate on the research process as well. This is something that we have done at Nubank, and it's been extremely successful.
Mm-hmm.
So let the rest of the team know their data already has like Flash. People know there's a human on the other end. Bring engineers and other roles at the company to listen, or at least try to get some key moments of the videos or audios of the interviews and share with them. Because I feel like when you have a different voice really speaking inside the company, it helps a lot to make the decisions.
Perfect. I really resonate with that as well. So instead of just having like one person be the face of it and present, you work together as a team, and somehow even involve your customers virtually through voice or through video, and that just add that personal touch to it, and it makes it far more weighted.
Yeah, yeah.
So could you, I mean, if it's okay, would you have an example to share with us from maybe your current company or maybe your previous projects? Any example that stands out to you where you presented your research findings and that resulted in some actionable, I would say, features to be added, which wouldn't have been there otherwise?
Yeah, I actually have a really good example, and I'll try to go into like the quantitative and qualitative kind of data, and different types of research as well. So I think around a year ago, we were trying to define what were the next steps for our credit card product, which since we launched in Brazil in 2014 has been super successful, and also has been super copied, or at least like lots of companies have been paying some tributes to to what we've built here in Brazil. And like the product, as time goes, there are, I don't know how many players already offering the same thing or like pretty equivalent products. So how do we differentiate ourselves? And what we've done has been to start with data that the company already had. So instead of going out and starting like this really close research, foundational, talking to people and ignoring all the data that the company had, we decided to embrace what our data science team already looked into, like what were the key business metrics, and we figured, we understood that they were looking into how repetitive were the patterns among customers, right? So let's say, okay, so Lucas is this person, and he's spending, I don't know, he makes like 13 transactions with his credit card per month. So now we know this person comes back to the service or uses the service this frequently. And we're trying to understand, okay, so there are customers that don't use it at all, and customers that use it, I don't know, every day, every single day. So we're trying to find these behavioral patterns in the customer base with quantitative data before jumping into a more qualitative study. So I feel like always a good starting point is bring in your data scientists, engineers, and people who are already looking into these metrics, PMs, and start using their metrics as well. Try to find the patterns that people have that will do like this conversation with what's important for the business. So I think this is one way to get everyone involved and curious about what's going to come out of your research. After that, we had a customer understanding process of going into people's homes and understanding what problems they had, but also I think a lot of the design research done today, still in 2020, is very qualitative. So we know what people do and why they do it, but we don't know how many people are doing that. We don't know if this problem, which is super critical, is worthy for the business to solve, or we should wait because we don't have that many customers that go through that specific part of the journey. So I feel like there's a missing element there, which is the quantitative study. And
Yeah.
that's the kind of thing we wanted to bring in at the end of that process as well. So like doing surveys and trying to figure out how many people had that same problem identified in a qualitative process.
When you say quantitative, my question again, I'm just coming back, how do you know how much is enough? Because would you go to all the 10,000 folks and ask, when do you know to stop?
Cool. I think this is where user researchers and data scientists have to really pair and do the work together. And I think there's where a huge chunk of the value user research brings to the table comes in, right? You don't want to do things isolated and as an external team providing data to your product teams. You want to be part of the product team so you know what's important to study as well. Well, there are different ways to make this calculation. There are online tools that, like if you're a solo researcher, that can help. You just need to find like how big is your customer base and like the level of confidence that you want to have with your results. You can pick that, and then it will give you like the amount, like the size of the sample you need to get to have statistical relevance. So,
do you remember one or two such tools? Just right.
Oh, I don't have any names in my mind right now, but I can send you and you can maybe add to the show notes.
Yes. I'll add to the show notes. That really helps because there are a lot of companies with a smaller research team, or sometimes a person can only be the only researcher on that team, and it's easy to get lost. So
exactly, yeah, it is very easy to get lost.
I would really love for you to touch base a little bit more on the qualitative and quantitative bits of research, and for someone who is pretty new to research, and I'm sure some of our listeners are, if you could just maybe briefly describe what those are, major differences, and when to use what, because I think you just mentioned the importance of quantitative in some cases. So how do you get started with, what do you get started with first? And how do you decide what that first one will be?
Yeah, that's a tricky question. I think really, again, it depends. But I think mixing both is very valuable. So it depends on, do your team, like, does your team know where to start? Do they know where they're tracking? If they do, then start with quantitative. Like, just try to find what are the patterns. Like, for example, in our case, we were looking to frequency people were using the service. So that was important to us. So we divided the entire customer base, which is like, I don't know, 25 million customers, now 30. We divided in 6 buckets. So instead of looking into 30 million people, now you have, okay, people who make 1 to, I don't know, 5 transactions per month, people who make 6 to, I don't know, 12, 13 transactions per month, and people who do more than that. So once you have buckets of behaviors and that you can compare one another, I think that really helps and is a good starting point to then bring in qualitative research. So interviewing people who you already know what are the patterns of using the app or the product you're building. So and there are cases that you don't have any data, and you're probably just trying to figure a completely new problem space that has not, like no one at the company is looking into that. So in that case, you might want to start with the qualitative research first.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. So if you have data, if your teams have been tracking so far, use that first, and then simplify your findings into buckets and then perform qualitative on that. Did I get it right?
Yeah, perfect. That's it.
If we could summarize the whatever we just spoke about and have like just 1, 2, 3 steps for you to make your research actionable and help the PMs and the designers make better decisions, what would those steps be?
Okay, I think it's a good way to summarize it. I think step one is work on data your team already cares about. Don't like I wouldn't start research, or people in our team don't usually start research with completely open questions. Just look into what the team is already curious about. So you are sure like these people are gonna listen to my data when I bring in some of my findings. Step two would be combine qualitative and quantitative data. So for each problem that you now know why people are doing this, whatever the behavior is, try to figure a number that will help the team understand what is the sizable market for that. So I feel this is super helpful for researchers. And then I would say once the team is building the product, pair with the designer working on it to make sure they're using your research data in the best way possible. So like researchers should be part of the design reviews, design critiques, or whatever processes that the company has or offers designers to evaluate their work and keep iterating on the product.
Yeah. Would you also suggest researchers to be a part of the validation testing and the user testing that happens after the designs are made?
Yeah, absolutely. I think this, if we can add a fourth step there, I think that's super valuable too. At Nubank, what we've been doing is we try to allocate researchers into more foundational research, and then when the product is out, product designers have been just getting guidance from user researchers to do the research. But whenever possible, if your company has a really balanced team of user researchers and product designers, please do go out and test the designs as well.
Perfect. So Lucas, I ask 2 questions to every guest on my part on the show. And I would love for you to answer those as well. So first one, I know I didn't tell you about this earlier, but throughout your career, right, have there been any people who have influenced you in a good way? And what did you learn from them?
That's you caught me off guard here. I think there were so many people that influenced my career. And I feel like some of them were, yes, designers, but some of them were not designers at all, and they were doing design in a way. So I would probably do like probably a cheesy answer, but I would say my parents. They're both medical doctors. They've always cared about people, about helping people. I always said I was going to be a medical doctor as well. And yeah, it turns out I didn't, but I just found a different way of doing it. So ever since making that decision to go into design, they have been the people I usually talk to, and they learn about design and I learn about what they do. And we try, like to improve our way of working, learning from one another.
That's so beautiful. That is so beautiful. Both of you have your own way of helping people, which actually makes their lives better in their own way. So that's so beautiful. And the second question. So what would you advise to to a designer who is just starting out their career now? What would your advice be to them? Say we are in midst of Corona and then people are getting laid off, and it's difficult. Actually, it's a difficult situation there. So for folks fresh out of college, or maybe folks who have like maybe 1 or 2 years of experience, what would your advice be to them?
Yeah, I feel like that maybe there are two advices in my answer. Um, I think number one is designers are very introspective in general. We are introspective beings. And I would say something that helped me has been to share my early work. Like, you know, when your designs are not perfect yet, when you don't have all the decisions made, like just share your work with people in your life. Like, I don't know, your family, friends, people who are not even designers, just share with them and try to incorporate feedback. I think this is one of the things that really helps improve the work itself. But then the other part of the answer, which is more related to what you asked, which is um, like people who are entering this world in a COVID or post-COVID scenario, um, I I would do like a spin-off on my answer, which is talk to people all the time. Like designers are good designers are good at listening, and listening to others, what they have to offer, just exposing yourself to people, like going on LinkedIn and trying to to get in contact with other designers, people you admire. I think this is super helpful. It not always, like, it doesn't work every time, but like I think when you persevere,
Yeah.
it's a good thing.
We just needed to work once
Yeah,
for that first job, right? So you just needed to work
exactly,
once.
exactly, and yeah, exactly.
Perfect. So incorporating early feedback into your designs, putting it out there, not waiting for your perfectionist self to give a go ahead, and then the importance of making connections. I love it, Lucas. Thank you so much. Is there anything else that you would want to share that I have not asked you?
Thanks for having me. Okay, so if I have anything that I wanted to share, cool. I think there's a couple of things. One of them being at the early stage of the companies, you're trying to find giants or bigger companies that are already really good in that field.
Yeah.
So all you have is your user. All you have is the person on the other side, and you can make a better product for the person on the other side. As the companies continue to grow, then you're getting more successful, and like people recognize the brand, and they're gonna, like there's like this inertia component that plays in,
Yeah.
and people will just like anything you put out there just because your cool brand did it. What I would say is just keep talking to your customers as you continue to grow. Don't do design by the numbers. Don't do design by committee. Just keep bringing in fresh air, fresh oxygen to the company, and finding new opportunities talking to customers. I think this is a cool thing that is happening in my current company as we're growing from, I don't know, 1 million customers 2 years ago to 30 million right now. Like the customer base is completely different, and
Yeah.
that's something we've learned along the way.
Yeah.
One final suggestion, if you're curious about listening or hearing more about design and Nubank, we have a design blog. So you can just type nubank.design in your browser and hit enter, and you're going to find lots of articles about our research and product design teams.
Lovely. Thank you so much for that, Lucas. Touching base on your earlier point when you mentioned how important it is to continuously speak with customers, and that is applicable to every company at every stage, even if you are a startup, even if you are a mid-sized company, or even if you are like a large billion-dollar company, right? So uh, the phrase that you put it, right? We are always designing for the user who is on the other side, and that is what we need to care about, and everything else will fall into place. Such a powerful simple, powerful, yet so profound. Thank you so much, Lucas. And definitely go check out the design blog. And if you want to know more about research and how Lucas works, if you want to know more about how he works, please reach out to him on his LinkedIn. And I am hoping you will be there to answer your questions.
Thanks for having me.